Everything in hindsight is crystal clear, isn't it? Looking back on my marriage and divorce, I realized that I never should have been with my ex in the first place. We got married for all the wrong reasons. Long story short, we got pregnant within a year of dating, and we got married. I see now that was my mistake. Not the having kids part but the marriage. If we had dated longer, I would have seen all the red flags that told me she was just shy of evil and crazy and selfish. But we were together over 15 years, most of which were very unhappy. I have no idea why we just stayed like that all this time. My question to you all: did any of you marry for the wrong reasons? What were some of the reasons, looking back on your relationships, that your marriage went wrong? Like, did you miss something you didn't see or realize about your ex that is clear now, or maybe you were blinded by the idea of love? I feel like I married the wrong person. I just got married a couple months ago. We only dated for a few months before we got engaged, and then we were engaged for about 15 months before we got married. Whenever I see other people in love or other relationships, I have this sick feeling in my stomach. I feel like I never had that feeling with my husband. I never really felt in love with him. I never felt super attracted to him where I just wanted to have sex with him. We have an okay sex life, but I typically always have to think about something else to turn me on. He never actually is the sole thing that turns me on. And that's not normal because in the past I've been with other guys who actually did turn me on, and I didn't have to think about anything else. That sounds terrible, but I would rather do that than just never be in the mood to have sex with my husband. I feel like the whole way through being with him we rushed into things, and I never got a chance to feel like I could leave the relationship without it being a leaving nightmare. I didn't want to break his heart and we were already engaged, and then I would have to call off an engagement and a wedding. Things were never so terrible to go through all that stress, but things were never that great either. I couldn't get myself to walk away from someone that loved me so much. Except that I just didn't feel as strongly as he does for me. The days went by and each day we got closer and closer to our wedding, and it got harder and harder for me to leave. We lived together and had all these wedding plans. Even on my wedding day, we fought on our wedding night, and I just didn't feel in love with him like I feel like a bride should be. Now we're married, and I find myself attracted to people in my life that I wish I could be with but can't. I would never cheat, but I just wish I wasn't married to him a lot of times. It would be easier if I actually felt passionately about my husband, but I don't and never did. It's my fault for letting it go on this long, but now I'm just afraid. Should I leave with my decision, or should I just try to get a divorce before things get worse and we have kids or something? TLDR. I was never in love with my now husband and I feel like I made a big mistake and wondering if I should try to get out of it. Update. I talked to him today and we're getting a divorce. I had an arranged marriage. I am terribly lonely. We have sex, but there is no romance. He doesn't hold my hand, cuddle with me in bed, kisses aren't a thing. When we are over at his family's I sit there and just listen. I don't exist unless someone needs tea or food or someone to blame. I hold my pillow at night and dream of running away and finding someone who loves me. I can relate to this. My parents had an arranged marriage 30 years ago. Now that I've grown up, 28 years old, I see that there's no love between them. They stayed together just for the community and for me. I'm the only son. My mom vocally admits that my father does not love her. I love both my parents, but now I'm helping my mom and dad get a divorce/separation, so they can have better individual lives. I will also support if they find other SOs in their lives going forward. I hope your kids help you do the same with full emotional/financial support. All the best. I grew up in the Bible Belt, where everyone's plan is to go to college, get married, and have kids as soon as possible. I just always accepted that's what adults are supposed to do and that will make you happy and fulfilled. All of my friends got married in their early 20s and I was single into my mid-20s. Everyone kept asking when I would settle down and find a nice girl. Well, I finally found a great girl. She was, and is, amazing. She is kind and caring. She was the type of girl people say you should marry. She was also conservative, religious, and sheltered. Things which I was not. I was always taught to be those things, but they never really stuck. I just thought I would get there as I grew up, and I knew, that's what you want to find in a wife. We started dating and had fun together, but then the pressure to get married started coming from every angle. From her, from my family, from my friends. So even though I wasn't even sure that I wanted to ever get married, I popped the question cause that's what you're supposed to do. Right? Now we are years down the line and she is wanting kids, but I don't. I am looking back wondering how I got here. I am scared to hurt her because even though our paths are moving apart I still care about her, but I am just not sure if I love her. To make things even worse, I met a girl. This girl is the type of girl that I should really be with. We agree on all the stuff that my wife and I disagree on. We have the same goals and aspirations. And she really likes me too. She is beautiful and fun, so driven and intelligent. She makes me want to be a better man. I look forward to seeing her or talking to her. I think this might be what love really feels like. Problem is, I can't just abandon my wife for a what if? I owe her more than that. I made a promise to stay with her through thick and thin. So I have made peace with the fact that I might miss out on my shot at real happiness in order to do what's right. I, 32 female, think I married my husband, 32 male, for the wrong reasons. My husband and I have been married for about 2 years, and dated for a year and a half before that. When we met we were both coming out of bad breakups. I'm his second wife and I had been with a guy for about 8 years, who dumped me kind of brutally. I was turning 30 soon and I think I just was lonely and wanted to be married. So when he proposed I just kind of went along with it. He is a nice guy, and for the most part we are content together. But sometimes I see and hear the way other people talk about their relationships, and I feel jealous and like we made a mistake. I don't exactly feel like I'm in love with him exactly. I love him more like a friend or a brother. I don't feel lucky to be with him the way other people say that about their spouses. And I don't miss him when we aren't together. I think he kind of feels the same way. He never really compliments me or does anything really loving towards me. But I think he really doesn't want to be alone. He isn't great at stuff like housework and cooking for himself, which I like/don't mind doing. I don't even know what I'm really asking. Maybe just, is it worth divorcing someone when nothing is really wrong? TLDR. Lukewarm marriage. Probably shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. Divorce or try to make it work. I got married because I was a teen mom, and I wanted to prove to my family and my peers that I was mature and that I didn't screw up my life. I did think I loved him, but looking back I really couldn't understand what marriage entails at 18 years old. We were married for 3 years before divorcing because we were not compatible and grew in different directions. I'm glad we did it though. He's more like a brother to me and our daughter can see that we both love her very much. I am far more choosy about partners now, and I don't think I would have been if I didn't make the mistake of marrying the wrong person so early. I stayed single for 5 years. Now I have a wonderful boyfriend who has the same outlook on life and similar goals. I never would have thought I deserved that if I didn't experience the polar opposite. Thanks, Cupcake. I don't think I realized until last year that I made very tough decisions. When I was 17 and decided to keep and raise a baby. When I was 18 and accepted a marriage proposal. When I was 21 and in a terrible relationship and wanted more out of life. When I was 22 and I still wanted more, so I decided to finish my bachelor's degree. And many other critical decisions that I just kinda made with the attitude I can do that. I really believed I could do it all on my own until I met the next guy who was gonna be my Prince Charming, and rescue me from my ramshackle house, student debt, and loneliness. Like I said, I didn't really get until I was 26 and my daughter was 8 that I was a single mom, and it wasn't gonna get any easier. That was the most freeing moment of them all because I finally accepted I wasn't Superwoman, nor was it likely that I was gonna be swept off my feet by some rich suitor. There was a little piece of me that was really hoping for being rescued, although I knew it was not likely. And being able to admit I wasn't as strong, or as awesome, or as smart, or as, adjective of choice here, really made me realize I made some tough, brave choices, and it was okay that I didn't have it all together all by myself. I admitted it to my ex-husband and he felt the same way too. That's when we were really able to start leaning on each other to co-parent. That set off a vulnerability chain where I was able to admit that I wasn't perfect and needed help to other parents in her school, my own parents and family, friends, co-workers, and finally and most importantly, to myself. My life has really gotten better by admitting I am vulnerable. TLDR. We are all braver than we think. Give yourself credit, whoever you are that is reading this. But being vulnerable with intention is the bravest thing to be. Lots of rambling about tough stuff that probably isn't that tough when you look at the hardships other people go through. I honestly had doubts throughout our relationship and marriage. There were so many red flags when we were dating and engaged. I was in love with him though, and wanted to spend my life with him, and I'm a very open and honest person. So I believed when he explained things away. I went over to my sister's house several times leading up to the wedding, crying, tempted to call it off. But I felt trapped. I had helped him get custody of his daughter from an abusive and neglectful household. She was calling me mom and thrilled to be in a stable home. I didn't want to just up and leave her. I knew he wouldn't take very good care of her. I thought all my doubts were just stress from other factors at the time, and that things would eventually settle down. I thought a lot of things would change when we got married. Stupid and naive. I know. In a 7-year relationship, we have probably honestly only had about a year or two of good times. Our daughter was diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder. Basically, because of neglect, she doesn't form real attachments, and PTSD. She was constantly raging and lying/manipulating, and destroying our house. Then he was constantly lying/manipulating, and out with his friends constantly. I didn't know who I could talk to, because she acted like an angel around others outside of our house. And he refused to help me with anything. After 5 years of hard work, I have finally gotten her to a place of being somewhat healed. He has slowly done less and less throughout our relationship. He doesn't bother trying at all anymore. His friends and gaming are his priority. He will put them before everything. He has a weekly gaming night with his friends, and even though the friends will skip nights to attend family stuff, etc., he refuses to. He has missed holidays, anniversaries, family birthdays. I kept making excuses for him, always hoping he would change or do better. He quit his job, slowly takes less and less classes at school, and he's filled all of that extra time with gaming and friends. We've been through marriage counseling, without him participating at all during sessions. I have been in therapy by myself, and constantly trying to fix the marriage by myself. Eventually, I finally had to give up. I cannot carry a marriage and a household by myself. He is constantly lying and manipulating to get his way, and throughout all this, I had become a miserable, depressed person who could barely make it to work every day, let alone to anything else in life. Now on the other side of it, me being out of the love/relationship fog with him, and being so emotionally numb to him now after so much abuse and shitty treatment, I'm shocked that I put up with all of it for so long. I can clearly look back at the past 7 years and everything he's done, and how glaringly obvious his abusive behaviors were. It's hard not to regret the relationship. Sometimes I honestly think that if a genie came and gave me the chance to go back and do over, I wouldn't stay with him. I think if our daughter hadn't been a factor, I would have left. The only reason I stayed so long was for her. But I can't sit around and wonder, what if? And leave with regrets. So I'm trying to be positive and excited about my future and having the chance to start over. I can see now that I stuck with my significant other because he was just so helpful. When we started dating I was alone, had no friends, in a new city, going through, I realize now, a depression. He swooped in and fixed everything. Helped me with bills, bought me a phone, fixed everything. I always wanted to love him but deep down I knew it wasn't there for me. I started avoiding being intimate with him early on. Medical issues of his gave me a convenient excuse but honestly he just didn't turn me on. I thought moving in together would change my feelings. By the time we got married I thought, I have a spark. It will grow into a flame. He continued to take care of everything. We communicated well, we thought, but I see now that we just stopped talking about the painful things. The differences in our personalities grew to the point where we were basically roommates in the same bed. Different friends, different hobbies, increasingly less common ground. Every step I made with the best intentions, always thinking this will fix it. Finally, I realized that I was miserable. Coming home after work felt like a load of bricks dropped on me. He's a good guy, but he's not the right guy for me. I'm not Susie Homemaker church wife, and he's always forced me to be. Tried to force me to meet his standards in everything. I wanted to love him, but I don't. I respect him, admire him, feel deep affection for him. But I want more. More passion for me than his gun collection, better sex, not to feel judged all the time, not to feel like I'm not measuring up. I swallowed my feelings for so long, ignored my inner voice that knew things weren't right, got caught up in societal pressure to hang on to a good man that took care of me. I ended it right before Christmas. I'm sure the depressed moments and anxiety will come, but at the moment, I just feel free. I made some bad assumptions, but I don't know if my reasons were wrong per se. I can say with some confidence that the soon-to-be ex-wife did enter into the relationship based on bad reasoning or in bad faith. The soon-to-be ex-wife didn't want to go on a second date, but her friend tricked her into it by saying that she had already told me that she wanted to go out again. Once we had been out on more than one date, in her mind we had changed categories from going out on a date to dating. And as such she would need a reason to break up with me. There wasn't anything bad enough to point at and say, "That is why I'm breaking up with you," so we stayed together. Once we were dating for a year, she was 18.5 and I was 21 by then. It was time to be engaged, especially since we were no longer virgins by that point. I don't think she ever really developed feelings for me. I was someone she could respect and I treated her with respect and affection. We had been married 4 years when she told me that she felt cheated by our marriage, because I wasn't providing the lifestyle that she felt like she deserved for putting up with me going to engineering school. I realized that she had married her idea of a rich person's wife and not me. I was a warm body to fit into her life schedule and nothing more. I died a little inside that day and would continue to do so a little bit at a time in fits and spurts over the next 12 years, until she told me that she could no longer put up with me and was leaving. I knew that dating was going to be rare to non-existent in my life. I had assumed that there would be reciprocity and appreciation for the effort that I put into the relationship and household. I knew I could pull my weight at home, that I could make a decent living, and that I had explained what that tired tingly feeling was that she had the first time she took her pants off, and I knew how to make it happen whenever. I thought I was making her happy, and if I needed to do something different that she would let me know. I thought that she knew who I was and had accepted the good with the bad. My reasons were right only if my assumptions remained valid. None of the assumptions were correct. I felt like she settled for me and took advantage of me being so naive back then. Got married a lot sooner than I wanted to. Would be lucky to have sex 5 times a year. It was bad. No effort, no kissing, hugging was rare, snuggling was non-existent. Became very distant, especially at the end once she made some new guy friends, and suddenly started to change her behavior. Going too early for work, staying later for work without a valid reason. Throughout all this, I should have left. I was becoming depressed, angry, miserable, you name it. But I stuck on because I thought it could work. Then she decided to break it off. Though, I have an almost 2-year-old son, and he makes me complete throughout this whole situation, made it worth it. Now I'm with someone that makes me realize what a true relationship should be made of, and I couldn't be happier. I get my kiddo 3 to 4 days a week. I'm also going back to school. Something that she made me put off for years. My ex keeps trying to be friends, and even wants to throw a combined birthday party for my son who's turning 2. Wants my family and hers all together, but for me, too awkward and weird. We were together for 5.5 years, married for 2. Both of us are in our 20s. I was rushed into it. I was having second thoughts, then my mother passed away suddenly and I freaked out. My mom was all I had and she was there one day and dead the next. I was tipsy and bombed on Paxil, and I walked down the aisle alone into a horrendously tacky wedding that was thrown together by my mother-in-law. She vetoed all of my decorations and substituted her own while I was in a haze of grief. When I asked to postpone the wedding, hubby said no, that sometimes you have to do things that suck. We've sent out invites and picked a date, and we're doing this. He picked the date. We threw the whole thing together in less than 6 weeks. So yeah. I got married because I was scared to be alone. I was planning to leave him and then my mom died, and I was too scared and overwhelmed to do anything but cling to the belief that love would be enough.